time to begging and bribery to read a newspaper and a jab of trust. And the person who volunteered, we have a jab of trust, newspaper, the two people who volunteered. Lots of shooting. We need soldiers though, you know. Okay, you're the man. You take off. You take the work off and you open up the work off and you take it. All the expensive trip. You've got the the teacher hat. Yes, there is, and the way to get to it. Okay. Yeah. One, three, four. It's time to start. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It really is start now. Okay, let's start up. My name is Ron Bonica, and I'll be chairing this meeting of Lyme. If you're here for Lyme, that's great. If you're here for a warm place to read the email, well, that's okay. We're friendly too. For the people online who can't hear, I see there are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people in the room, not counting myself. Carlos Piñataro isn't here. He's not attending this IETF. In any event, let's start out. And as always, we start out with the Note Well slide. This is the IETF IPR policy. If you're not familiar with the policy, please do familiarize yourself with it, or very bad things could happen. Okay, let's start with the chair's slides. Well, actually, I should put up the agenda first. Well, actually, the agenda is rather short. There's the chair slides, a update on the connection-less documents, and an update on the connection-oriented documents. So it could be a very short meeting, and then we can use the time that we don't use in formal meeting in a face-to-face update session, face-to-face editing session. So let's leap into the chair's slides. Our charter is on this website. And if we go back to our charter, we had 3 deliverables, Yang data models, and we turned out having, we divided it into 2 at first and 3 later, 2 around connection-less protocols, 1 around connection-oriented. We were also going to have an architecture document and an applicability document, but those both got subsumed into the data models because they were both about a paragraph long. So basically, our task is to finish 3 documents, and those are the 3 documents that we currently have as working group items. All the other documents have been subsumed. Now, what is our status? Well, the 2 connection list documents, in my opinion, and that's why there's a question mark there, they're really close to being ready for working group last call. We had 2 really productive interim meetings, and I think they're pretty close to cooked. The connection-oriented document isn't all that far behind it. We learned an awful lot doing the connection less, and we kind of know how to attack that one now. But all the news isn't cheery. It's much later than you think. This working group was chartered 2 years ago to do 3 Yang models, and the Yang models were due over a year ago. The window of opportunity is passing. When this working group was initially chartered, we thought that we were building a framework that was augmentable, and different working groups that did different OAM mechanisms would augment it. BFD would put some stuff in, and everybody who does an OAM model would put something in. Well, as it turns out, we've taken so long that these working groups are going ahead without us. As time slips, so does our relevance. So, here is the working group chair's bombshell. We're going to work really hard and get the connection list drafts to the IESG by the next IETF meeting. The connection-oriented draft by the meeting after that. And we will shut down at that meeting, regardless of what kind of progress we made. So if we're not making significant progress in the next 2 IETFs, that's probably an indicator that that we're not making significant progress and probably won't get there before the window of opportunity closes. Anyhow, is there any strong reaction to any of that?
Frank Bruckner's quick question here.
I'm sorry, your name again?
Frank Bruckner's.
Okay.
What's the rationale? So if you go one slide back, and you said that the connectionless is near ready. I think the connection orientated is a little further along than the connectionless.
Yes.
Right.
So it gets one more IETF.
And I think if you go one slide forward, I do believe that the connection, I think you got the numbers wrong. So the connection orientated is a little further along than the connectionless.
Whoops, my bad.
Right, and I think that's throughout
on
slides.
On this slide.
It
I
might
meant
be
to reverse
to
them.
give the connectionless a little bit more time.
Sorry, I reversed them on this slide. Connectionless should get more time.
Okay,
because
then we're
it's
on the same
not
page.
in good shape. I'll fix that slide and post it again. Greg.
Yes.
Greg, what is your name?
Greg. Greg
Greg.
Mirsky. I think that what I wonder is that at some point we agreed that, yes, we work on paradigm packet switching networks, connection-oriented, connection-less OEM, but we understand that we want to have some more abstract model that will unify these two into some single model, which could be very thin, very light, but still will be very helpful, because that will ultimately be realization of our goal as abstract OEM model for the multi-layer environment. Because in a multi-layer environment, the transport usually will be connection-oriented network, and then overlay will probably be connectionless.
Okay, this sounds like a reasonable thing, to find something that you can abstract from between connectionless and connection-oriented and put it on its own domain. That is what you're saying, no?
Yes.
Abstract what's common, factor out what's common. I'd agree that might be a good thing to do. The question is, can it be done in 2 IETFs, or will it take 6 IETFs?
Again, with enough thrust, and pig will fly. So it all depends on participation of the group.
If you can make that pig fly, I encourage you to do so, and we'll all have barbecue.
Okay.
Benoit Claes, I'm confused here because, okay, the goal of Lime was to get one Yang model. Then we said, okay, it's impossible to get one Yang model. We need to divide this into 2, connectionless, connection-oriented. Then we divide it into 3 for the method, which I agree with. now we're telling with Greg that maybe we want to go back to the abstraction, which was the goal initially, but it proved to be not possible. So what am I missing here?
Well, there is a question as to whether it's possible or not. And it's probably not appropriate for the chair to say it is or isn't. That's the work of the working group. But what the chair can say is, if you can do it correctly and quickly, show it to me. And if you can't, then 2 models, 3 models, or maybe no models is the right answer.
Okay, understood. Then we concluded it wasn't possible, at least it was my understanding, by dividing into connectionless and oriented. My conclusion was that the group concluded it was not possible to an abstraction. So,
And I believe that was the conclusion too. I see some of the people who were in favor of splitting it up and don't see any of them coming to the mic. That's an invitation.
My name is Qin Wu. Actually, I think always split one job into several jobs. I think it's based on discussion and the consensus. So we'll follow this consensus. If we break this consensus and try to merge all of these jobs into one, I think I also get confused.
Greg Mirsky again. Okay, a little bit history. Their initial draft to Lime Group came from the TRIO model. And it took some time to agree that the TRIO presents connection-oriented, TRIO OEM presents connection-oriented OEM paradigm. And then we didn't split it. We just redesignated, we clarified what it does, and then started the work on connectionless. But at the time of the discussion, at least my recollection was that we agreed that even though we're working on technology-specific OEM, our ultimate goal is to have an abstraction layer that unifies these 2 models.
Okay.
So it's not about merging them because they cannot be merged. They are distinct because the paradigms of the network are distinct. But we agreed that it's, well, worth effort to have an abstraction layer that uses probably, I don't know, we called it test points and test functions that will hide specifics of their network paradigm.
Let me propose something and ask for a show of hands from the people in the room. I challenge you, Greg, to produce some text that describes the abstraction layer. And I don't mean an email, I mean Yang model that describes the abstraction layer. Hang on. If within 4 weeks you can have that done and the working group salutes it, then it's adopted and it goes in to our work path. If it's not complete or the working group doesn't salute it, then it may be the right thing to do, but we just don't have the time to do it because the window of opportunity is closing.
Okay, fair enough. I just want to mention that probably before Berlin, I sent already a proposal and I got no response to it.
Could you send it again, and this time with Yang?
I sent some Yang prototype that basically used reference path.
Okay, I'd ask you to send that again today, and that will start discussion of it.
I'll try to dig it up this week.
Okay, sometime this week is
good. Yeah, the week is kind of busy.
Mm-hmm. By the way, does everybody like that proposal? Is anyone paying attention? Okay. And Jeff Haas is always paying attention. No.
This is Qin Wu. Actually, I'm not sure. I follow the Greg's proposal. Actually, for CLOM model, actually is already built on top of the network topology model. Network topology model has already abstract topology. So we already do such kind of abstraction. So if Greg can propose another iterative approach, and we can take a look at that. But we already try our best to do that.
Okay. the thing is that, again, in connection-oriented and connectionless networks, the topology could be described by the same model, but OEM is different, because if you are connection-oriented, then you have to care about their misconnection defects, which is not the case in connectionless. Okay, so there are some distinct differences in models. That is why we discussed and agreed to have two Yang models for OEM, for connection-oriented and for connectionless.
At this point, probably debating about it in abstractions won't help very much. If you could make the proposal in email, we will discuss the proposal on the list, and today's November 14th. On December 14th, we'll have a cutoff on the discussion. Either we accept the proposal or not. And we can remember that because December 14th is Beethoven's birthday. Benoit.
Benoit Claes. So, you know, if the abstraction we speak about is simply like the endpoints, it could be like a type def, which anyway we have in the topology, right? That's the first thing. Now, if you go to the next slide, please. Shut down by IETF 99. I've been hearing so many times that those draft and Yang models are almost ready for so many meetings that this date is important. The window of what you mentioned, I strongly believe into that. If we don't deliver, it does not matter, right? Because the different OEM mechanism will have their own Yang models, and we are not relevant.
Actually, I want to clarify, and so we already have Yang models that I believe should not be impacted by Lime models, but it better will be beneficial for the Lime to use them. And I can name BFD Yang model, TWAMP Yang model. I can name MPLS LSP ping Yang model and MPLS-TP OEM Yang model. So these models already exist, and I believe that Lime model has to accommodate them rather than force these models to change.
Oh, clearly. But the question now is, given that these models exist, what value does Lime add?
I believe that there is a value, and especially the value because we want to create some abstraction. And so, because for the same BFD is working in connection-oriented networks in MPLS-TP as it works in connectionless networks in IP and IP MPLS.
So I'm drawing a mental model of what we would have if we continued with all of these models plus Lime. There would be N models which model a partially overlapping set of stuff. Now, the partially overlapping stuff would be modeled one way for one protocol, another way for another protocol, and yet a third way by Yang in the abstract way. I'm scratching my head and wondering, what value does that add?
But again, in my view, for existing models, Lime model can augment the BFD and be done with it, because you don't have to redefine how you enable continuity check in connectionless network, because you already have BFD model.
So really what you're doing is turning Lime on its head. At one time, Lime was the common area that was an abstraction that all the other protocols didn't have to do. Now, Lime augments N other protocols with something that they already have. So,
in my view, the Lime is their model of saying or enabling operator to execute or instantiate certain OEM functionality. Okay, so basically, if you're in a network and you want to say, okay, we want to monitor continuity between A and B, then you go into more technical technology and paradigm-specific definition, which is based or argumented by their technology-specific solution, how you do it, whether it's a BFD or it's something else, 1731-like. And then in that environment, you provide the specific parameters of your protocol.
Okay. Well, let's see. I want to go a little more into the role of chairing and not the debater. So does anybody else have any other feelings on this?
This is Qing. Actually, based on clarification from Greg, I feel a little bit contradiction, for the model design, So I feel confused about that.
Okay. I think probably the best thing we can do is ask Greg to propose his Yang model, propose his changes to the Yang model. We'll evaluate them by December 14th and either move forward with them or not. But in any event, we're still looking at an IETF 99 deadline. Any other comments? Okay. Now we will move on to this time I'll get them right. I always confuse the connection-less and connection-oriented. We will go with the connection-less update first. And I have the wrong one. And that is certainly the wrong one. I thought this would be easier to control. Okay, let's do it this way. There. And okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael from Huawei, and this afternoon I will introduce Lime, the CL and the CL modules update. First, this is the CL modules update. Since the last IETF meeting, we have do a lot of work to push this CL module move forward. We host several internal meeting, which also join another internal meeting hosted by the BFD working group. In this internal meeting, we discussed the CL and CL modules update, and also discussed some questions such as the relationship between the line module and another module exists defined by the protocol working group. And we also have several discussion in the email list, include why should we need to split this model into two, and another is the relationship with line and with another module. Also have some discussion about the argument method and the skip amount method. Finally, we request the IETF young doctor to review our work and give some comments to us, and then we can make our model better and push this work move forward. Exactly. Okay, this is about the cell modules update. The most obviously changes, we modify the splits the module into two. One is for the CL modules, base module, another is driving method. And we also, okay, this issue is raised since last IETF meeting, and Frank initiate a discussion in the email list. Most people support to split this model into two, and working group makes this decision. Then we do relative update according to this decision and discussion. And second important change is we add section 2 describes the cell modules applicability. In this section, we propose to use both cell module and another modules specified in the protocol working group as basis. Therefore, the line module can provide its structure, and another technology-specific module can provide these details. We augment line with this grouping defined in this technology-specific module, and therefore we can address line scenarios to address some line problems such as quickly found the root fault location or stage different layers test result. We also do some small change in the CL module, such as we add some description to introduce a relationship with I2RS test topology module, and we also modify the supporting tools attribute to read only, and finally we remove some CL relative technology attributes such as VR3 VPN and MPLS TP relative attributes. Okay, this is about some important discussion. The first is we discuss a lot about the relationship between the line and another modules. Before this topic, Greg and Ron and Chin have discussed about this relationship, and I think we have already discussed it in interim meeting, in last IETF meeting, and also in email discussion. And in the BFD working groups interim meeting, we also introduce our proposal. I think we make some consensus that the technology-specific module can define as standalone module, and the CL module and this specific module can work together as a basis to address Lime scenarios.
Okay, Greg Mirsky. Okay, the current state of connectionless model does not address my comments that I sent when there was an adoption call for the connectionless model. I believe that their augmentation of technology-specific models, and that includes BFD and LSP ping in a connectionless methods model, that has to be part of the model, not applicability, because it's a part of the Yang construct. And if we say that we do have a comprehensive BFD model in this case, that it has to augmentation of BFD model has to be part of connectionless OEM model, not applicability statement saying, oh, you may do that. No, if we're saying that you need to do augmentation because otherwise you would not be able to instantiate BFD continuity monitoring in your OEM.
Okay, for this question, why we don't do some update in this module? Because I think if we want to show the generic module, we want this attribute or structure more abstract, and we don't want to define a lot of parameters it can describe in this techno-specific modules. So perhaps we want to address the Lime problem or the layer dependency problem. Perhaps we need to just provide a structure of a common product module, just can show the common structure and the common attribute. And if you have another techno-specific module, it's cool. You can provide another solution for the user. The user can flexible chose to use this techno-specific module or use this module and the Lime structure, build a new module to address this Lime scenarios.
Okay, I have two questions to that. First, if you don't want to be tied to the specific mechanism to do continuity check, then why connectionless OEM model includes the container with a list of RFC 5881, 5883, 5884, and so on and so on. So that's very specific to me, right? Second of all, if you say that there are other mechanisms to do continuity check in connectionless networks, I would be interested to learn which you mean.
Okay, first question is the supporting tools shows its capability. It's not defined some detail. It can show this device. Okay, I can support these tools, and we know not define it more. We not define more techno-specific details. So this is a part of. I think it is a part of abstract module. It can provide the ability. It can provide the let the user know what tool I support.
Excuse me, but it's quite specific that you're listing BFD single hub, multi-hub, and BFD over MPLS LSP and BFD over pseudowire. I think that's a very specific. You're not saying, oh, I can do continuity check, and how I do it, you will figure it out when you want to do it.
Okay.
I think that's a level of abstraction for the line. Is I do continuity check. Fine.
Okay, we can discuss it later. And
I think that's a discussion that we had for not the first IETF. And I sent the comments in working group adoption call, and it's still there. And at the same time, you say that augmentation of BFD model is too technology specific. I think that these two statements don't connect to me.
Okay, I think do you want to comment on the same issue?
Yeah, I have a question on the common issue. So, Greg, is the proposal to just get rid of these references? And would that solve the problem? Because then that's a fairly easy approach to solve the problem.
That would be only half solution in my view. I think that the solution would be, yes, remove this list of RFCs, not only related to BFD, but all RFCs, because they are too cryptic. They require a person to know what this RFC is about. And instead of that, use the functionality. If we are doing, for example, LSP ping, then it's on-demand continuity and connectivity check. You can do it over LSP or pseudowire with LSP ping. For the 379 BIS, probably now better the reference. But we have a model for LSP ping or just IP ping if it's IP network. Okay, but you don't have to reference particular RFC. You just say on-demand continuity check connectivity verification, period. Everything else technology specific. And if we have already model, like in case of LSP ping, just augmented there.
That's actually a fairly easy change to make. Would it be okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
We
and the
can.
same, and the
And
same,
I-
and the same to do with the BFD. Instead of listing RFCs that BFD related, say proactive continuity monitoring, and then argument BFD to there.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to feedback these comments to my co-author, and we can discuss it. Perhaps we can do relative change and or update.
So just a comment, Rob Wilson, Cisco. Can you clarify, Greg, do you mean augment the model or do you mean import a grouping from one of those models?
I usually see that you augment the model.
Okay, so if you augment it, that means that the line model, to implement the line model, you have to also implement all those other models as well.
Well, otherwise, how would you instantiate BFD if you don't implement BFD model?
Well, no, in case you want to implement both of those, you can do, but you won't have to just implement BFD. You have to implement all the other OEM models that are being augmented by the line model as well. So it feels the discussion of the line augmenting these other technology-specific models seems like the wrong way around to me. So, I mean, fully grouping, that's what I
Again, I don't see that because again, the line, in my view, the line model, if we're talking about VFD, I don't know about other examples because yes, we can talk. Actually, we agreed that performance measurement will be separate, and actually that's something that I realized that was not on our timeline. So what will happen to the line performance measurement model? That will be something that I think that we missed in the earlier discussion today. But if we talk about, for example, existing LSP ping model and BFD model, I think that they have to be implemented if you want to realize the potential of connectionless OEM.
Okay. What about CFM?
CFM is not connectionless. CFM requires your connection. You define your MA and a MEG, and it's a connection-oriented model.
Okay, but with the connection-oriented model also augments CFM. It's the same thing.
Actually, it's a different question. I think that we haven't really got to how Lime relates to Ethernet models, and namely for MEF38. Because MEF38 is a young model of fault management for the carrier Ethernet service. So how Lime model and MEF38 correspond?
Okay, so I think that MEF38 you can ignore. I think that's it.
Okay, then we can ignore a CFM.
Okay, in future, more naturally, I expect CFM.
Okay, again. We had this discussion on how Lime work related to Ethernet service OEM, and we haven't decided. I don't know whether we have a clear solution. I think that our implicit agreement was that Lime model is applicable to technologies developed at IETF, which includes in the connection-oriented domain, TRIL and MPLS-TP. But that's, again, if I'm misrepresenting, please correct me, because that's my recollection of our discussion. We had this discussion, yes, but I think that agreed that we only Lime covers TRIL and MPLS-TP.
Okay, for this issue, I want to introduce again, and for our author and the working group and another such as BFD working groups discussion, we get some consensus, and we think we don't need to mandatory require another technology augment line or extension line, but you define as a technology-specific module, and we provide the structure to address Lime scenarios. We can use it to model together to address the problem. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is another discussion about schema mount method and augment method. In the CL module applicability, we introduce a method we can augment the CL module with technology-specific group to get the new module and address Lime's problem. And another method is proposed by NetMode working group. Schema mount. It also can solve the problem to make different model work together. Yes, and you're expert of the schema mount.
Hi, I'm Mlaďa Ludka, and I'm a co-author of this schema mount draft in the NetMod working group. And I'm a bit worried that now that schema mount becomes sort of fashionable term, that people will start using it instead of normal augment that we have been using for several years.
Yeah.
So the idea is that schema mount is useful in cases where you want to use the same Yang module in different places in your data hierarchy. Like you have a module that could work for a simple physical device, and then you also want to use it in some kind of virtualization, like in a routing instance and things like that. So suddenly the same data becomes somewhere buried inside the hierarchy. And then, of course, if you, for example, want to augment this module with something else, you have to specify a precise place. So, and you cannot do it at the same time for both, for the top level location and for some mounted location. So that's for this. This is the use case for schema mount. If you talk about like adding some technology-specific knobs and things like that, then in my view, a normal augment should work. So as long as you really have only a single place where you want to put this new stuff, then an augment should work. So I would recommend you to look at augment first. As soon as you realize that it doesn't work for your use case, then you may want to have a look at the schema mount. But as far as I can tell, this could work. And also I'm a bit confused about the use of grouping, which is what probably Rob also mentioned.
This reuse grouping is some grouping defined in this technology-specific modules, such as BFD and as MPLS-TP. They define a lot of reusing grouping. We don't want to redefine this attribute in the Lime contingent module. Therefore, we reuse this grouping. They are not defined in the Lime module. They are defined in the
Okay, I don't know the details. Just to warn you that these groupings do not work like object-oriented classes, for example, so that really you if you want to use a grouping, you have to use a specific grouping from a specific module. So it's not possible like to have some object-oriented inheritance, and so you just call for a grouping, and it will be somehow magically filled in with the stuff that's really relevant for the particular device. So, but that just
this is about this is for the Lime applicability. For example, you want to extend the Lime to address the Lime BFD module. You can reuse the Lime some grouping defined BFD and Lime structure. This is the way proposed in the applicability.
So my conclusion at this moment is just go for an augment, possibly, and if you have any problems, and feel free to contact me if you want to ask.
Thank you. Thank you.
Greg Nurski again. I just want to stress is that if argument statement that lists explicitly the model that we're augmenting into Lime OEM model connectionless is not part of their model, then it would not be augmented. So it cannot be part of, oh, you can augment. No, it has to be part of the base model. The augmentation has to be part of the base model. If operator doesn't want to use proactive continuity verification, then it's fine. But you cannot do augmentation on a fly, on a wheel. Okay, so please understand that.
Okay, this is a problem we faced. For Lime, we just provide the common structure, and we cannot define some technology-specific modules. You know, in Charter we clear it. The technology-specific module need to define in the product working group and technology-specific working group. Therefore, in the Lime module, we just can provide some the Lime applicability or some solution to the reader or to the user for declare, okay, our Lime module can provide this this capability. You can do this, but we don't want to effort anyone else.
Okay, I think that again, I have to point the contradiction of your statement and the fact that model lists their numerous RFCs, which are technology specific.
Yeah.
So either remove all of them out of your model and have no connection to their instantiation, because otherwise, if you don't have a way of use existing methods, which are protocols, OEM protocols, BFD or anything else, then I don't see the value of Lime model at all. Okay, if you cannot do from Lime abstraction to go into technology-specific protocol, then what's the value? I believe that the value of Lime is that you say, I want to do this OEM functionality, and that gets you into technology-specific. Or if you want to see the operational state, say, give me the operational state between A and B, and then it either does you on-demand verification or post the state of a proactive session. And how it does is technology specific. But if you don't have this connection to their technology, to the specificity of your paradigm, what's the value of Lime?
Benoit Claes. So let me ask the stupid questions then, because I'm slightly confused. So connection less and BFD, which one augments which one?
For Lime, we use Lime as a base module, and also import the BFD module.
So we import a BFD module. Okay, fine.
No, you know, the Lime module, the applicability, we do some technology.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Qing. Let me clarify a little bit. Actually, we in our base model, we not extend from base BFD model. Actually, we import a network topological model and import a network instance model, but we don't actually import a BFD model. Here we show the its applicability. We tell you how to extend the base model. So we talk about use augments. Augment is applied to the model extension, not applied to the base model.
All right, so I'm hearing that the BFD model will go alone anyway, right? That's one thing. So we want to have a Lime model that will be augmented for OEM specific technology,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Good. So which one do we have? We've got like potentially SFC or beer or T1. So these are those guys that we're going to influence, trying to get them to link to Lime, while for BFD it's too late. Is this the idea?
In the trail working groups, they have trail OEM module and augment the CO module. Yeah.
All right, right. Okay. So Chin, that's
So
the first statement.
let's see if I understand the answer to your question. The ultimate value of Lime depends on our ability to influence these other working groups to augment Lime.
This is what was in the charter. I understand it was too late for BFD already.
Now the next question is, are the other groups highly motivated to do so, or are we working on an airplane that will never leave the ground?
That's the question. What is the value of Lime where we're too late already? If we just have like a module with a pointer to an OEM specific Yang module, I mean, all right, so what is the value, right? A container telling, okay, BFD, T1.
This may be a derailing question, but maybe we should think about that for just a while and think about whether it makes sense to continue work.
Just one comment. So if the situation is that you have some modules that are already ready in some other working groups, and you want to take these modules and put them to some place in your hierarchy, then of course it may be a use case for schema mount, because in this case, the extra stuff that you want to add needn't care about your basic structure, so they needn't put any augments in their modules. So you can just take their modules and put it somewhere. There are some limitations of what you can do and cannot do, but that's of course the option. But I really don't know the details. I would have to look into what you are doing and trying to achieve, because I cannot tell.
Okay, we can discuss it more.
Just to comment on that, Benoit, again. So let's remember that the charter was about consistent configuration, reporting, and presentation. If we change, based on what Lada said, right, the configuration, it's too late for BFD. They're going to use their own module. They're not going to use a hierarchy that we've got, even if we do a schema mount to what they have, right? That's the first thing. So for BFD, the config part is over. We might be able to influence some other OEM mechanism, the new ones, SFC, BEER, or maybe T1, and I don't know, whatever will come, right? Maybe, if you got a nice model, we could augment that. Now, to come back to BFD then the only value of Lime is what? Potentially the common, the consistent reporting, because they're going to have a schema mount that says, and this is the container, the mount point for BFD, and it's the same level of the different mechanisms. This is the only added value of Lime in that case, which is tiny.
But it's this, yeah, it's so weird, right? So I think for what we just acknowledge is for certain things, there's a strength. For certain things, the train has clearly left the station. BFD gone, Trill gone, fine, check. There's other trains waiting in the station, BEER, maybe SFC. Let's go try, right? And given that the work has progressed quite far, let's give it a try. Let's go publish the stuff, and then if people pick it up, then it's good. If people don't pick it up, then it wasn't good enough. So, and you have some printed paper. So I think it's worthwhile continuing and getting it done and trying to get it done quickly, as opposed to asking the question, should we go and continue right now, given that you're so close to the finish line?
Benoit speaking. I've got no problem with that, but it seemed that it took us like so much time, at least in my little head, to just try to summarize this, right? And you know, we ask to have a wiki with the different OEM mechanism, connection-less, connection-oriented, whether we influence those guys, whether their interest to augment Lime, etc. We have to go back to this, which was requested like 3 meetings ago, right? Because if in the column telling, is there interest to augment Lime, and the answer is no from everybody, then accept to improve the reporting, then the value is
Jeff, tell us your name.
Hi, my name is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
So Benoit, specifically about the BFD point, BFD does allow for configuration of BFD through other means. Now, that's one of the reasons why we have that dependency across several other modules. We have groupings exported for common configuration. So for example, OSPF can enable BFD sessions Lime can do exactly the same thing. I think your broader question is, what should the general design pattern be for OAM-like things so that a device-specific module can be not only in control of its own fate, but allow for other, external things, Lime being an example, to do its job. And similarly, how can those device-specific modules, provide information that is useful so that the layer-independent portion of Lime can actually get its job done? The first one, in terms of general configuration, BFD is obviously a good example of that. Ls ping, I haven't looked at the module as an example, so it would be interesting to see if there's some way to provide similar groupings to allow for external components to do configuration. I don't have a strong opinion about the layer-independent portions of the operational state.
Okay, so I will try to summarize what we just heard here, and that is that, again, the window of opportunity seems to have gone for BFD and for Trill. We may get that window of opportunity for other OAM mechanisms, so let's work fast and get this done. So, it seems like our relevance has to do with our time to publication. And I'm sorry, your name slipped. Frank? I'm sorry? Okay, Frank. Frank mentioned we're so close to the finish line. Okay, if we get to the finish line, it's worth it. If we take another year to get to the finish line, the train will clearly have left the station. So anyhow, with that, any more comments on connection less? Let's talk about the connection-oriented draft. Yeah, one more.
Just a little bit confusing. You draw the conclusion the window for the BFD and the Trill all close. Actually, Trill actually extend from serial model for the window.
Yeah, for BFD, it's closed, but maybe for some other. So let's try hard to get done by IETF 99, and maybe we'll be there in time to be relevant for some other OAM mechanism.
I don't know, but in fact, if Lime proves to be useful, then nothing prevents somebody from adapting the BFD model just to be able. Well, we had a situation already with the routing module that also tried to provide some kind of a framework that routing protocol would use. But we now have also some modules for BGP, for example, that just ignore this work and they wrote data model that starts from the top. And so what we've been trying to do is to convince people that maybe this framework can be useful for them. And of course, it will take time. So I think it's not carved in stone. So if you want, you can just adapt their module, use a different name, and put the BFD stuff using an augment or something if it's useful for you. So that's another option. So I don't think that the fact that BFD working group is done means that you cannot use their work in some other way, I believe.
Okay, thank you. We'll consider it.
Okay. Any more on connection less? Let's move on to connection oriented then.
Okay, the connection-oriented module, we don't update the last active meeting, but we prepared some proposal to address some problem. And but we have two intermeeting and not have many time to update the draft. Therefore, we miss this data line. But this proposal is already prepared, and if we can submit, we can submit a new version. This is talk about the proposed version. Yeah. Yeah, similar to the CL module, we do a lot of work to prove this work move forward. It's an interim meeting and request the young doctor to review it. Okay, in this new proposal, we need to solve several issues. The first issue is how to deal with the MAC ID. The MAC ID may be some technology specific attribute. and it equivalent to the maintenance association ID, and it defined by the ITUT. It also be used in IETF's MPRSTP technologies. So this term, this attribute seems technology specific. Our solution is very simple. We just remove it from the base module, and if the module user want to define it, it can augment the CL module 88 based on the requirement. Next slide. The second issue is how to define the MIP list. The MIP list in the original version, like the CL module, the MIP list defined very simple. It only have contains only one leaf interface. But we checked the standard document. We found that the MIP list, if want to configuration the MIP, at least we need two parameters, one address, another the level. But we also found that the MIP usually created automatically. We do not need to explicit configuration. Configuration, this parameter seems technology specific. So our solution is similar to the deal with MAC ID. We just remove it, and if the user wants this attribute, they can augment. Okay, next slide. Okay, the third question, the third issue is similar. Where I already introduced in the CL module is the relationship between the another modules. Okay, this is the final question. There are some compile errors in this module. In the previous version, the CL module can pass the P-Young exam, but not can pass the Young validator truth check. And we fix these errors, and now it can pass both these two truths. And this way we propose to update. Yeah. Okay. So next up, we'd like to prepare another version according to this meeting discussion, and require working group another working group last call. Thank you. This is CL module. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, Greg Mirsky. Okay. So several comments regarding the relationship between this model and MPLSTP OEM model. So regrettably, I see this model as a trill model. It's not MPLSTP or OEM model, because we do have MPLSTP OEM model, and I suggested to augment it. So the document has informational reference, not reference, lists MPLSTP OEM Yang model as informational reference, but it's not referenced anywhere in the text. So, which is kind of odd. It's a stale reference which is not used. And again, I believe that because MPLSTP is another connection-oriented network developed at IETF next to Trill, if you don't want to replicate MPLSTP OEM model, you need to augment this model into this base model. Okay, so otherwise you're just replicating and duplicating MPLSTP OEM Yang model that already exists.
Isn't this exactly the same conversation we just had a minute ago? And
yes,
the other
but
document?
again, if we agree, or we think that MPLSTP OEM model left the station, then remove the references from this document and make it Trill model, period.
Mm-hmm. Any more comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to try very hard to come up with some next steps. And I see two big obstacles to getting there. One obstacle is the one of factoring out some things that are common between connection-oriented and connection-less stuff. And here we have come up with the action item that Greg Mirsky will generate some text by, the next couple of weeks. Beethoven's birthday, that's right, December 14th. Actually, now that I think of it, it might be December 17th, but 16th? Okay. Okay, whatever Beethoven's birthday is, that's the day you'll come up with it. 16th, okay. And we'll decide, whether to use that piece of abstraction or not by then. The other is we have this recurring discussion about augmentation, and we have it showing up in both drafts. Do you just reference an RFC? Do you pull in parts? Do you ask other working groups to augment the Lime the Lime model? And I think we've come up with a solution that says, and somebody tell me if we don't have consensus on this solution, but I think the solution we have consensus on is that we will not reference any RFCs for the OAM specific stuff. We won't reference the BFD RFCs, but we will ask other working groups, not Trill, not BFD, to augment the Lime model with their stuff. Do I have that agreement right for everybody except BFD and Trill? For BFD and Trill, what will we do?
Okay, so my understanding is that we will reach to other groups working on OEM frameworks and solutions to review Lime models and consider their relevance. Is that right understanding? Because basically we're not enforcing the Lime model onto them.
That's true. If nobody contributes anything, if nobody augments us at all, we are useless with a capital U. Okay, I see a head nodding. Is that not entirely? Oh, you're nodding left and right, or right and up and down?
Jeff, so the problem Lime has always had is it doesn't really have a good sense of which direction things needed to go, partially because we started from two problems. First one being Yang was a very new thing. The second one being the OAM technologies involved are very distinct things. So I think on BFD is anything I know well. BFD's management module in Yang for the IETF has to be self-contained and self-sufficient for IETF purposes, and it has to also serve in the capacity that it does for all the various protocols. So we have to have something that can actually satisfy those requirements. Does Lime add anything on to that? Not necessarily. Does Lime making use of technologies add something? Potentially. But if you can't figure out what that looks like, we've gone through, I think I pay partial attention to Lime, roughly 2.5 different schemes of what the relationships of things look like. The initial one being, by example, sort of Y1731 IEEE flavored. It was not something that was a good fit, and the authors have done a little bit work to try to actually work around that. If you can't figure out what that looks like, how can you ask people to build on top of that?
Authors, any?
It's an old discussion. That's where most of the churn in the documents has gone through, is trying to actually find good mappings between these things. If this was not IETF technologies, I think this would be a lot cleaner problem, because ITU and other organizations, when they build technologies, build OAM as a first level thing into each of them, and therefore it's clear what they actually tie together. IETF technologies don't do that. They're loosely coupled.
I agree with Jeff's characterization of that so far On too many occasions, we left OEM hanging as a abandoned child. Something like I can compare only to the MIB work that, being very late always. But at the same time, for new encapsulations, and that's something that we hope Lime may be relevant, that work on SFC, BEER, and VO3, as that's where we try to come up with a comprehensive OEM mechanisms in parallel to doing networking technology.
So where I think something like Lime has challenges is to build that base model. If, again, this was some other organization, the underlying base models would already be there. In ITU, you have circuits, and you have the OEM for the circuits and all the stuff that builds on top of the circuits. The layers just keep on building up.
Mm-hmm.
What we do not have in IETF, let's pick on SFC as an example, that is effectively going to be a IP technology. There's no IP technology OEM that we can build on top of. So we don't have the same foundation that the other organizations do. And that right there, I think, is really the thing that Lime has been fighting with the entire time it's existed.
Yeah, Lime is trying to find some commonality among things that aren't really common. Okay, so going back to next steps, there's the piece of abstraction. That's the easy part. Now, how to tackle the augmentation problem. I thought we had a solution that we'd agreed to. That was to get rid of the references to specific OAM RFCs and just wait for other working groups to augment the Lime data model. Does everybody agree that that's what we agreed to in this meeting? Is anyone awake? Does anyone not agree that that's what we agreed to? Does anyone remember the agreement differently? Okay, I'll assume I got it right then. So I'll be looking for a new rev of the connection less draft pretty quickly, like soon after Beethoven's birthday. Yes? And with any luck, we can send that to last call in January, February, and send it to the IESG by next time. And probably the connection-oriented one should go soon after that, no? Okay. Do we need a online editing session in January? A interim? Should I take that as a no? Authors, do we need an interim in January? I guess not. Well, in that case, we have a path forward. I know this has been a difficult meeting. Thank you all for bearing with it. See you all wherever we're meeting next time. Tom, where are we meeting next time? Chicago, cool. Okay. See you all there. And who has the blue sheets? Hey,
How are you?
okay, how are you?
I'm just sort of to be saying that, but
That's okay.
I was frustrated that my comments.
Well, you're talking about the augmentation ones or the, abstraction? Okay, I thought that was in the agreement we just rattled off, that we would
Yeah,
not list
but
the RFCs.
I sent them one version before, and
Hmm.
they still, they changed now. I appreciate that you make it clear